Nothing about us without us. That is a saying that many vulnerable groups are familiar with. It is also a saying that in part informs a 3-country regional community capacity assessment undertaken by the Caribbean Development Bank's CDB Basic Needs Trust Fund, BNTF. From February to April 2023, the BNTF conducted a capacity assessment of 32 community groups in 28 communities in Jamaica, Guyana, and St. Lucia. 565 persons participated in the exercise. This intervention aimed to identify areas for strengthening the operations of each group to aid communities with pursuing sustainable local development.
With that in mind, under the 10th cycle of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, we sought to look at the community capacity assessment, focusing on the community groups themselves to see how we could understand where their areas of needs are, and then to develop interventions to improve their operations as a group so that they could have more sustained interventions within their spaces and becoming champions for development within those communities.
The BNTF program is the CDB's main vehicle for direct poverty reduction in the Caribbean. It responds to needs identified by the most vulnerable communities in the priority areas of water and sanitation, education and livelihoods enhancement, and access and drainage. Some of the needs identified by the assessment included the fact that 86% of the groups did not have a constitution to govern their operations. Additionally, 96% of the group members did not have the capacity to write proposals.
This questionnaire caught all of us sitting last night at the table, where it came to vision, mission, and then we went back as teachers, goals, philosophy, object. So we were saying, now it teach us a lesson now, because it might be another NGO we might want to seek grants from, and they might ask us the very question. So if we get help in formulating objectives, visions, and missions, it will put our community, I think, on a better track.
As BNTF's program strongly aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, the assessments also incorporated community awareness of and alignment with the goals. Overall, 62% of the 32 communities were unaware of the SDGs or how the goals applied to the work they were doing on the ground.
Coming out of the meeting, something that is very critical. Jamaica is a country that has aligned its national development plans to the Sustainable Development Goals. 91.3% of the indicators are mapped, if not one-to-one closely. But speaking to the community, they had not heard about the SDGs. They didn't understand what it meant. They were unaware of even its existence. And I think that's a critical disconnect. I think we need to stop to get between that disconnect and pull the parts together.
The assessments were conducted using the intuitive software Kobo Toolbox, which allowed for data collection using a smartphone and for speedy preliminary assessments.
Reliable data is crucial in aiding vulnerable communities and reducing poverty. My name is Gina Kreutzer, and I'm the CEO at Kobo, the nonprofit behind Kobo Toolbox, a data collection platform used globally for research and social good. We were privileged to support the Caribbean Development Bank in strengthening the resilience of local communities in Jamaica and Guyana to ensure a successful project rollout. Our team helped design assessment forms, streamline data collection, and provide custom visualizations. Our offline data collection features were essential in remote areas lacking internet. Supporting organizations like CDB is central to our work. Our goal is to ensure that programs like BNTF have access to high-quality data tools so they can make an impact on the ground. By enabling access to reliable, high-quality data, we at Kobo are committed to empowering organizations like CDB to create meaningful, on-the-ground changes and to increase resilience.
The assessments have challenged the countries involved to look more critically at its work.
Some things that we've seen from these assessment visits that we can also do more for the community, which I'm looking forward to doing more for the community in terms of building their capacity and working with them as a group to, when we leave the community, for them to also be able to move forward and progress and develop further in their space.
For Laverne Luard-Greaves, social analyst at the CDB, a major part of the substantive value of the assessments is that many of the participating community groups will have their capacity for action built.
In the first instance, the coming out of these activities directly, there is the promise to provide support for the entities to build out their action plans. In a very real way, the BNTF will be providing support for them to have these action plans finalized. We will also be providing support in terms of strengthening their operational capacity so that they're better equipped to conduct some of the tasks that they need to conduct and to better represent their communities within the spaces.
As a part of the next steps from the assessment, the BNTF will be organising a proposal writing workshop in July, as well as preparing an online community development course.
Good morning, and what a morning it is. My name is Camille Taylor, and I am Head of Corporate Communications at the Caribbean Development Bank, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies. Now, whether you're joining us from Bridgetown or Bogota, Kingston or Kuala Lumpur, welcome. The fact that nearly 4,000 of you from over 104 countries have registered tells us something important. What brings us together today is bigger than the Caribbean. It's a global reality. Too often, the deciding factor is the proposal that presents that idea. Communities with brilliant solutions, organizations with proven track records, and practitioners with years of hard-won experience have watched opportunities pass them by, not because they lacked vision, but because the language of financing is foreign tongue. Today, we begin to change that. The Caribbean Development Bank, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, or CDEMA, and the Local Engagement and Action Fund, LEAF Canada, are firmly on your side, and this course is proof of it. This training is designed for NGOs, community groups, civil society practitioners, and even government entities that are doing important work every day and deserve every tool available to secure the resources that work demands. We will open our proceedings with remarks from the partners who made this possible. Then we'll learn about the course itself, what it covers, what it looks like, and what completing it means for you. We will also hear directly from two practitioners who have already experienced grant proposal and development training in the field. And we'll close with your questions, because this course is for you and your voice matters. So let us begin. Sustainable development depends not just on funding, but on the capacity of communities to access it and use it well. Our next speaker has seen both sides of that equation firsthand. Dr. Martin Baptiste is a social sector division chief at the Caribbean Development Bank. His frontline position, sitting at the intersection and people, makes his perspective worth hearing. Dr. Baptiste, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Camille. Representatives of the World University Service of Canada, Local Engagement and Action Fund, LEAF, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, the University of Wolverhampton, officials from the government ministries and departments, international financial institutions, the private sector, civil society partners, development practitioners, indigenous and tribal leaders, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As I begin today, I'm reminded of this quote by cultural anthropologist and author Margaret Mead, who captured the very essence of why we are here today. Quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Friends, across the Caribbean, civil society organizations, community leaders, and grassroots groups prove that sustainable development is strongest when communities are empowered to identify challenges, mobilize solutions, and lead change. Yet for many organizations, limited access to funding remains a significant barrier to transforming good ideas into meaningful actions. Today marks an important milestone in our collective action to address that challenge through the launch of the proposal writing online course. It was developed through a partnership between the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, the Local Engagement and Action Fund, LEAF, the Government of Canada, and of course, CDEMA. This initiative was inspired by findings from CDB's Basic Needs Trust Fund beneficiary assessment, which revealed that many community groups lack skills and confidence needed to access grant funding. Through the BNTF community development approach, CDB reaffirmed that sustainable development requires strengthening local institutions, building leadership, and empowering communities to sustain development investments long after project financing has ended. Our vision is to support communities in moving beyond being beneficiaries of development to becoming equal partners in shaping their own futures. So in 2023, CDB and CDEMA piloted regional face-to-face proposal writing workshops in Jamaica and Guyana, as the video earlier showed. This initiative brought together 94 civil society leaders and representatives from community development and disaster risk management agencies, and the results were exceptional. Participants developed more than 75 concept notes, and through continued mentoring and technical support from CDB and CDEMA, approximately 15 organizations were able to successfully secure funding for community-led initiatives. These outcomes prove the value of targeted capacity development. But reaching thousands of organizations required a more sustainable and accessible solution. And that is where LEAF became that partner, bold enough to invest in a vision where civil society leaders and development practitioners could access high-quality training regardless of where they live. Together, we transformed a successful regional training program into what is now a free, self-paced online course available through CDB and CDEMA learning platforms. So we are deeply grateful to the Center for International Development and Training at the University of Wolverhampton, whose expertise helped us to bring this course to life. Indeed, the development process was highly collaborative, which ensured that the contents are gender sensitive and reflect Caribbean realities, while remaining accessible to all learners, including persons with disabilities. But this course is not simply about writing proposals. It is about unlocking opportunities. We're not drafting proposals, we are drafting life and change. It is about helping organizations access resources, strengthen their operations, deepen their impact, and better serve the communities that depend on them. At CDB, friends, we remain committed to helping create a shift towards more enabling Caribbean, where civil society organizations can thrive as value development partners. And we will be codifying that commitment in the design of CDB's civil society engagement strategy, creating a stronger framework for partnership, dialogue, capacity development, knowledge sharing, and investment in civil society across the region. Today, we are helping you to have the means by which you can access resources to bring the change that you need, not only in your lives, but on behalf and in the pursuit of better livelihoods for those whom you serve. Friends, as we launch this course today, let us remember that the future of the Caribbean will not be built by institutions alone. It will be built by empowered communities, resilient organizations, and committed citizens working together to create lasting change. Today, we are investing in those change makers such as you, because when communities are empowered, development is not only sustained, it is transformed. And we invite you to continue partnering with us to move this transformation forward. I thank you.
And we thank you, Dr. Baptiste. Now, Canada's commitment to the Caribbean through the Local Engagement and Action Fund, LEAF, reflects a partnership that places local actors at the center of development and invests in their ability to lead. We are grateful for Canada's solidarity with the region's ambitions, and we are honored to have Ms. Ababesh Asifa, Head of Cooperation at the High Commission of Canada to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, here to address us. Ms. Asifa, we're all yours.
Thank you very much, Camille. And before I start, I would like to congratulate our CDB colleagues for the video that we just saw about the BNTF. I think it sets the tone and reminds us that community intervention, and community organization are at the center of the conversation we're having today and of the training that would be launched. And as Canada is a shareholder of the Caribbean Development Bank, I'm also proud to say that Canada is the largest contributor to the SDF, which is supporting the BNTF. So it's really good to see how everything comes together to be able to support community in their actions. So representative of the Caribbean Development Bank, representatives of CDEMA, colleagues from the World University Services of Canada, representatives from the University of Wolverhampton, distinguished guests, civil society partners, development practitioners, activists, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a pleasure for me to join you from Barbados. I'm based here in Barbados. To join you for the launch of this important initiative, this proposal for project writing. I understand that, and Camille mentioned it earlier, that close to 4,000 participants have already registered for this course, and I'm sure that they work in a broad range of sectors, including climate actions, access to education, health services, disaster risk management, human rights, inclusive economic growth, democratic institutions, and basically in all sectors that contribute to improving the living conditions of vulnerable communities. So across all these areas, the work of this organization, and I should say your work, because I'm assuming that many of you who've joined us today for this launch are among the participants who have registered for this course. So your work plays a vital role in strengthening resilience, stability, and opportunity in the region. This collective engagement is essential to achieving meaningful, locally led progress. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the World University Services of Canada for hosting today's event, and of course to CDB for its role in bringing us together and in moderating. And I would also like to recognize the strong collaboration with CDEMA, as well as the important contribution of the University of Wolverhampton in developing the course that we're looking at today. Canada is really proud to support this initiative through the Local Engagement and Action Fund, better known as LEAF. And this initiative, which was launched, I think, a little over 2 years ago, was designed to support locally led, inclusive projects that strengthen communities in vulnerable contexts and improve access to resources for organizations working on the front line of development. The LEAF initiative also complements other initiatives that Canada has in the region that support local development, such as our Canada Fund for Local Initiatives that some of you may be familiar with. So at the heart of this training is a simple but critical idea: building the capacity of organizations, practitioners, and community leaders to develop strong, results-driven proposals is essential to improving access to funding and advancing resilient development across the Caribbean. Canada is therefore very pleased to partner with the CDB and CDEMA to bring this collaborative effort to life across the region. This course comes at a critical time. Here in the Caribbean, we are entering the hurricane season, and it's often a season where we are reminded of the important role that communities play in terms of preparing and, if need be, responding and recovering when we are in disaster. But it also reminds us of the importance of long-term development and the role that communities and community organizations can play in supporting that long-term development before and after a disaster. So this course directly responds to that need. It offers practical, Caribbean-focused training to help participants transform development ideas into clear, compelling, and funder-ready proposals. It will also strengthen project design and implementation capacity and support more effective resource mobilization and project delivery. Through a step-by-step guidance across the full grant life cycle, as well as interactive modules, practical tools, and regional case studies, the course is tailored to Caribbean realities and development priorities. By participating in this course, you will be better equipped to identify relevant funding opportunities, develop competitive proposals, and ultimately implement projects that make a meaningful difference in your communities. These skills are increasingly important in today's global context, and as we know, international development financing is under pressure, and organizations are facing growing competitions for limited resources. So in this environment, good ideas alone are not enough. They must be clearly articulated, grounded in evidence, and aligned with donor priorities. This course helps bridge that gap. It enables organizations to transform meaningful ideas into concrete, funded initiatives, strengthens credibility and positioning with donors, and support long-term institutional capacity and sustainability. More broadly, this initiative reflects a shared recognition that capacity building is central to stronger institutions, more effective development outcomes, and more resilient communities across the Caribbean. Before closing, I would like to once again thank our partners, the CDB, CDEMA, WUSC, and the University of Wolverhampton for their leadership in collaborating in bringing this initiative forward. I would also like to thank all of you for your participation today, and more importantly, for your ongoing dedication, not only to the organization you represent, but to the broader resilience, prosperity, and well-being of communities across the Caribbean. Canada remains committed to supporting priorities that matter to the region, including human rights, inclusive economic growth and prosperity, climate action, and regional security and stability. This course represents more than a training opportunity. It is an investment in people, in institutions, and in locally led solutions that can drive lasting change. I encourage all of you to engage fully with the course and to take full advantage of the tools and knowledge it offers. I'm confident that it will help generate strong proposals, impactful projects, and tangible benefits for communities across the region. I look forward to seeing the innovative ideas and successful initiatives that will emerge from this effort, and thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Asifa. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, better known as CDEMA, is a cornerstone of the region's resilience architecture, and we are proud to count this entity as a founding partner in this initiative. Representing that distinguished organization this morning is retired Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, Deputy Executive Director. Lieutenant Colonel, we hand it over to you.
Definitely, I'm happy to be here, and first permit me to stand on the previously established protocol, and good morning to you all. Today, through the partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank, Canada's Local Engagement and Action Fund, and the Caribbean Emergency Disaster Management Agency, we are actually taking a very important step to really address the needs to invest in our people. And not only in the people, on our people, but the ability to find solutions to the challenges we face in the region through the launch of this grant proposal writing in the Caribbean context online course. As you may be very much aware, the Caribbean region remains one of the most disaster-prone regions in the world. And increasingly, you're seeing frequent and intense climate-related hazards that not only threaten our lives, but also our livelihoods, the infrastructure, and the development gains across our region. But while many solutions already exist at the community level, access to financing remains a significant barrier to implementation, and also implementation at scale. At a time when development financing is becoming increasingly competitive, the ability to develop strong evidence-based proposal has become really an essential skill for organizing for organizations seeking to access climate finance, developmental grants, and other resilience in investments. And therefore, this course really offers Caribbean organizations a good opportunity to really build capacity to identify funding opportunities and really effectively communicate the merits of their ideas. It built on the success of previous collaboration that was mentioned before between CDEMA and CDB to develop proposal writing skills for the communities, where several in-person workshops were held in 2023. But what's important to note, the initiative resulted in participants mobilizing more than US 400,000 from regional donors and grant providers to implement community projects. And this was actually through the proposals that were developed during the workshop. So the availability of resources and training is only meaningful if they are utilized. I therefore encourage organizations and practitioners across the region to take full advantage of this opportunity. I encourage you to engage fully with the program, apply the tools, share the knowledge gained, and most importantly, use what you have learned to translate your ideas into projects that deliver tangible benefits for communities across our region. I wish to commend the Caribbean Development Bank, Leith Canada, the University of Wolverhampton, and all contributors who have supported the development of this program. Your collaboration demonstrates that resilience is strengthened when institutions combine their resources, expertise, and shared commitments to empowering communities. You know, Caribbean people have always demonstrated an extraordinary ability to adapt, innovate, and preserve. The challenge before us is to ensure that our ideas are matched by our ability to secure resources needed to bring them alive. So the future resilience and sustainability of our region will depend not only on how we respond to challenges, but how effectively we mobilize the partnerships, knowledge, and resources needed to address those challenges. So when communities have the capacity to access resources, resilience really moves from aspiration to action. So thank you very much. And I do hope that we make the very best use of this opportunity. And happy to note that we have over 4,000 people registered already. And we're looking forward to the benefits of persons who take this course and the application for the grant proposal and the impact in the communities across our region that is very susceptible to various hazards that can cause significant destruction within the region. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. We'll move ahead now to the course overview. And to walk us through the course are the two people most responsible for bringing it to life. Mr. Richardo Aiken, Community Development Specialist at the CDB, and Ms. Elena Haruna, Head of the Center for International Development and Training at the University of Wolverhampton. And that is the institution that will award certification for this course. Mr. Aiken and Ms. Haruna, we are ready when you are.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, based on where you are. So we'll be doing this presentation jointly. So I'll start. For those of you who are yet to register, you have an opportunity to just scan the QR code on screen to register to add to our 4,000 registrants already. So we'll just talk briefly through this online course, how it was developed, and Ella will take you through the modules as well. Next slide. Right, so as was mentioned, I think Dr. Baptiste and the video earlier gave quite a bit of context around the gap that exists. at the civil society level, and how our programming is designed, primarily our basic needs trust fund, for capacity building, but not just for CDB. As you could imagine, in our disaster risk management framework for Caribbean, as well as the Government of Canada's commitment is all hinged on building strong local institutions as a key pillar for sustainable community development. So it complements in-person training, which we're quite familiar with. It expands knowledge of diverse grant funding opportunities and build core skills to write competitive award-winning grant proposals. Next slide. A key component, and here is opportunity two. If you are a representative from a grant organization that provides grant financing across the Caribbean, you can also scan this QR code to include the details. A key component or resource within this course is a directory of funding agencies accessible across the Caribbean as well. So we're also having dialogue with other donors to create that connection between civil society, community development agencies, and those who provide the resources. Next slide. So the primary audience, and I think from the two earlier remarks, quite a bit was shared about looking at the civil society organization, those who serve civil society organizations as well, project management teams within the Caribbean. And as was mentioned earlier, there's been a global reach as well for those who are outside of the Caribbean and serving regional organizations, or just have an interest in proposal writing and community and advancing community development through greater access to financing. Next slide. So the course design took an inclusive approach to ensure it is interactive, to try to almost mirror the in-person sessions, user feedback, solicit through testing process, reflect on perspective experiences, and also build on a regional resource to address a wide range of challenges. And I think this is based on our own experience, LEAF, CDB, CDEMA, but also our partners who are on similar pursuits of building capacity at the local level to access proposal, to access grant financing. So the learning outcomes, by the end of the course, we hope that participants will be able to identify key components and structure of an effective proposal, to identify funding opportunities based on the priority areas that you're targeting, to engage stakeholders, to analyze the current situation and develop a project idea, moving from idea to project to project proposal, define clear objectives, deliverables, timelines for a project proposal, all of these key elements, and showing the connection between problems, objectives, deliverables, and timelines, and obviously a budget as well, and to develop the core knowledge to turn a project idea into a clear, convincing, and funder-ready proposal. And here are some of our online characters. So as I said before, we're trying to make it quite engaging. So you'll have different characters who will take you through the course, and you'll hear a little bit more about this later on. Next slide. And some of the key features are the practical toolkit that offers a set of tools and guidelines to develop a proposal, to kind of create that kind of real life scenarios. Also through those real world case study, structured methodologies through the 5 modules, each with numbered section and topics for you to grasp the key components within each module. There's also interactive learning, knowledge checks to reinforce throughout each module. So not just at the end where you'll be provided with a test, a quiz, but also throughout to ensure at each stage you are actually validating that you're grasping the concept at every step of the way, and then the reflection on quiz. And this is hybrid. So despite the fact that we have this online version, we're also quite aware of the fact that there might be opportunities or a need to deliver this in person as well, based on access, as well as sensitizing different groupings before actually coming onto the space. Next slide. Right, I'll now hand over to Ella to take us through the modules. Ella, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ricciardo, and good day to everyone. I'll just take a few brief moments to give an overview of the modules. I'm sure everyone will be very excited to dive in and discover for themselves, so I'll keep it short and sweet. As you would see on the slide, the course has 5 modules, an introduction as you would expect, and then 4 complementary modules that move around the grant development cycle. We're sort of estimating that each module would take about 60 to 90 minutes, depending on your experience and your learning preferences. And as Richard has said, each module is a nice blend of learning content, examples, activities, and so on. Let's have a quick look at each of the modules in turn, just to give you a taster and hopefully whet your appetite and build a bit of excitement as well. So the introductory module, obviously that's got the sort of background and context. So sets the background a little wider than just proposals, looking a little bit at some of the regional challenges and capacity that other respective speakers have already spoken to. Looking particularly at the terms, the definitions, moving around the grant process and the life cycle of the grant development, the project cycle as well. Looking at the features of proposals and just starting to think about some regional perspectives on what funders are looking for. And so just setting the scene really in that module. Module 1 starts to move around the cycle, so particularly looking at generating your project idea. It's got 5 sections, so it starts by looking at how we shape the project, then it moves to looking at who should be involved, so your stakeholder analysis, how we analyze the situation or the problem that we want to respond to, and then setting out the change that we want to see, and then building up that project concept with clear project objectives. When we move to module 2, we're looking at more around the decisions that you make before you start writing your proposal. Which funding opportunities are worth pursuing? Who are you as an organisation? What do you stand for? Why are you asking for this funding? So funding with your partners, looking at that funding as a two-way relationship with the funder as well. Different types of funders, different ways that they advertise, that they solicit proposals, and how those different processes can vary between funders. So all about, where are you going to make the decision to go or not go and perhaps look for another opportunity? The third module goes into more detail on developing your proposal, obviously very, very key. So all the core knowledge that you would need to develop that proposal. So thinking about participation, so community engagement, indicators, risk, sustainability, and then how to prepare a simple work plan and budget. And also going into some really important themes that our opening remarks touched on: the gender and social inclusion, climate and resilience, and capacity development, and how to sort of frame those within the context of your proposal. And then we sort of finish off with module 4, which is a shorter module, really on the final stage of submission. So often we fall down by perhaps not remembering all those last minute checks about preparing and finalising and submitting the proposal. So this module really looks at that, those submission requirements and all those little bits that you have to do at the end to tie a bow on your successful proposal. So back to you, Ricciardo, to say a bit more about how this engagement in the course will be recognised.
Right. So at the end, and we mentioned a few times around the accreditation. So upon successful completion, 80% and over, you will receive a.
So you have to go back up there.
A certificate from our partners, including the University of Wolverhampton. And not to worry, if you did not reach 80 at the first go, you could take it as many times as you want, because we're more focused on building the capacity as opposed to grading. So at least we could all leave with a particular level of knowledge at the end of the process. And the certificate is generated automatically once the process is completed. And once your details at registration is correct in terms of your name, then that will also be reflected at the end on your certificate. Next slide, please. Right, and I think Ella just mentioned this about just ensure that there is quite a bit of contextualization and critical thinking as well. And the design, there was quite a bit of consultation in the process that allowed that the needs of different groups are reflected in terms of persons with disabilities and so on, including the audio, but also the graphic representation, which I'm sure Cheryl will speak about a little bit later, to ensure that all groups would have a great experience despite the different abilities that as well. So the inclusivity was definitely embedded in this process. And thank you so much for taking us through that process. And we look forward to the questions later. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much, Richardo. So knowing something exists and seeing it in action are two very different things. We want you to leave today not just informed, but inspired to log on, register, and take this course. Ms. Gail Drakes, Education and Training Specialist at CDEMA, has been deeply involved in shaping the learning experience of this course. She will give us a preview of the platform, the content, and what awaits you when you register. Ms. Drakes, you have our full attention.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Camille. Hoping you can hear me well. Okay. Well, I'm pleased to give you a brief overview of what the grant proposal development in the Caribbean Context course looks like in the online space itself. So on the screen, I'll provide you with some screenshots of the course and just give you a description of what you can expect when you enter the course space and begin to work through the material. So when you enter the course, what you will see is a clean, simple course page that's designed to make the navigation easy. The course is self-paced, so learners can move through the material at a pace and at a time and a pace that works for them. So everything is laid out to show you the main components of the course and laid out in the order in which they should be completed. You will also notice that there are different icons and other visual clues, such as the blue icons you can see on the screenshots, or the red icons as well. All through the course. And what these do is they help learners to very quickly recognize the different types of activities that comprise the course. This includes the pages with information, lessons, resources that are downloadable, glossaries, as well as knowledge checks and quizzes, and of course the certificate at the end once you have completed all the requirements. What is also built into the course are some action checklists, and you will find those are the short red bars on the right of each element. And what those do is they form a guide for participants, which take you through each step. Whether you need to view content or to complete an activity, download a resource, or take a quiz, so that you always have a visual clue of where you are in the course, what progress you have made, and what further work you need to do. And the intention is to make the course easy to follow, including for persons who are not used to learning on online platforms every day. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. Now, as I think Ella and Richardo mentioned in their presentation, throughout the course, you're also supported by a group of course guides, and that's them there. Now, these aren't just decorative characters. What they represent are the personas of different people, and sometimes in a way organizations, who are involved in grant proposal development in life. So you will encounter someone who represents the community development officer, for example, or project officers, or community members, or even and funders as well. And what each guide does is it brings a different perspective to the proposal development process. And we thought that this was important because grant writing requires technical knowledge, yes, but it also requires the ability to understand communities, identify needs, and shape the ideas, and then be able to present those ideas clearly to the persons who may be providing funding. And what these course guides do is to help the course to feel more practical and relatable through the information that they share, and to remind you also of that need to think of proposal writing as an activity that involves many different people and stakeholders working together. Next slide, please. A little bit about the structure of each of the elements. As Ella and Richardo would have noted, the course is delivered through 5 modules, and each module contains several lessons, usually around 3 to 5. So when you open a lesson, you will see, work through a lesson, you will find a consistent structure to the lesson. The course guide, one of the course guides will introduce the lesson, explain what will be covered in the lesson, and help to frame the topic in simple terms for the learner. The course guides also appear at other times during the lesson, so there may be elements in which they are providing more in-depth explanation or sharing tips or some sharing tips for success or sharing some experiences that you may find useful. The course also includes narration. Could you go back? Yes, thank you. The course also includes narration. And so where you see a play button at any point, a learner can click the play button and listen to the text instead of only reading it. And that just gives us another way of for the learners to engage in the material. And there are also interactive activities such as matching activities, short knowledge checks, some small learning games. And these are included to keep the learning active rather than simply having to sit and read long pages of text. And the navigation is also kept consistent. So on the left-hand side of that screenshot, you will see that there is a navigation bar. And what that allows the learner to do is to move through the lesson, return to earlier sections, or review material as is needed. And this supports the self-paced nature of the course because participants can pause, review, and then continue when they're ready. Next slide, please. Okay. And just the last little part of the course, while we've tried not to make the testing and so on too onerous in the course. So there's a final quiz that you have to complete. I believe it's about 20 questions drawn from a larger pool of questions and a 70% mark. However, you may retake the quiz as many times as you need to take it in order to reach the passing grade. And that allows you to, that, if you do the quiz and don't quite reach the passing grade, you also have the space to return to other parts of the lesson, go over it, refresh your knowledge, and then take the quiz again. Okay, and I think that, yes, that is the end of it. So we really try to design this course to be as simple and as easy as possible to move through. And hopefully you participants will find it useful to support the work that they're doing to mobilize community support for community action across the Caribbean. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Ms. Driggs. While courses are built by institutions, they're validated by practitioners. We're now going to hear from 2 people who understand the realities of accessing funding in the Caribbean and what you have the skills to navigate that process. It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Nadian Anderson from Bridge People Engagement and Business Support Services in Jamaica, and Ms. Cheryl Adams from Voice of the Disabled in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their experiences speak louder than any curriculum. Ladies, we're eager to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you, and great morning, everyone. I am Nadian Anderson, a regional development consultant who supports communities, organizations, and development partners in building capacity, strengthening systems and processes that enable sustainable and high-impact development across the Caribbean. This grant proposal writing in the Caribbean context course exceeded my expectations. It is practical, accessible, and deeply rooted in the Caribbean experience. What I appreciated most was how it bridges the gap between global funding expectations and the lived realities of our Caribbean organizations. It takes participants from idea generation straight through to submission using simple and relatable tools and examples. Many grant proposal writing training courses focus heavily on the proposal document itself. However, this course goes further as it teaches participants how to generate a strong idea and align it with the right funder, structure the proposal in such a way, and present a compelling evidence-based case. As a trainer who has worked with civil society organizations for almost 2 decades, I know firsthand that this sequencing is a major struggle for groups, and this course addresses it head on. The inclusion of Caribbean examples and Caribbean voices is another major strength, as it signals to the learners that their context is valid, their challenges are understood, and their solutions are relevant. That alone increases participants' confidence and overall expectation in doing well in a course. Most importantly for me, this course contributes to regional resilience, and not only in relation to disaster preparedness, but also in strengthening the capacity of our organizations to design, attract funding for, and sustain meaningful community projects. Stronger proposals mean stronger projects, stronger institutions, and stronger outcomes for the communities we serve. Before I close, I must pause to congratulate CDB, CDEMA, LEAF, and the University of Wolverhampton for producing what I term genuinely transformative resource, not only for our practitioners, but also for development in the Caribbean. I thank you.
And Ms. Adams, it's over to you now.
Pleasant good morning to each and everyone on the platform. I am Mrs. Cheryl Adams from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am the founder and president of an honorable organization in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Voice of the Disabled, which was founded 2016. This organization represents persons with disability across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to really take this opportunity to congratulate Leave Canada, CDB, and all the others who come together to put this very important course together. This course is very much important and it is also well needed. Why so, Mrs. Adams? Organizations like us, Voice of the Disabled, and many other organizations depends on proposal writing. And so, because we are not able to do so for ourselves, most of the time we have to depend on persons to write proposal for us. Hence, these persons, they would come and they would offer their expertise and they would say, oh, you don't have to pay us anything. But yet, when the proposal come through, they want to be paid, and sometimes is what they're asking for. This course, however, will allow us, persons like us, like me, and many other nonprofit organizations to learn and how to write our own proposal. Excuse me, I'm getting a bit nervous. How to write our own proposal. It is really needed because we don't have much funding where government is concerned, and so we have to write our own proposal. I want to congratulate all those who are partnering together to bring such course to us. I am looking forward to participate and become a learner, a member, a student of proposal writing. I especially like to hear where it is self-paced. So you don't have to, it's not that you're going to be hustled or, you come home from you're work tired, and then you have to run into a class. Yes, discipline, you'll have to be disciplined, but I am looking forward for such a wonderful course. I am happy also that I was part of the testing of the course, I think sometime last month, and I was able to give my suggestion where I asked that, don't make it too much graphic, too much with too much graphics, seeing that visually impaired I am, I am going to depend on my screen reader to read for me. And if there are too much graphics, it would be a challenge for me. Again, congratulations to Leave Canada, CDB, University of Hampton, and CDEMA for seeing the need for such course and allowing us to become participants and self-sufficient. I am sure hearing about this course, when we are finished, we will be self-sufficient and able to write our own proposal. Again, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I am looking forward to such a course. Thank you very much.
Ladies, that was a particularly powerful intervention. It's one thing to hear from us as the organizers and presenters and sponsors of the course, another thing entirely to hear from those who have benefited. Thank you for your contribution. And I'm very pleased to announce that this morning, even while we speak and while we've been having our deliberations, we've had 200 additional persons sign up for this course. So it's clearly meeting a need. And now we're pleased to open the floor to you, our participants. We'll have the question and answer segment now. We're asking you kindly to please type your question in the chat. Be sure to include your name and your country because we want to know where you're joining us from today. I will pose the questions on your behalf and the appropriate presenter will answer. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open. Please ask your questions. Okay, first question, how long is the course?
All right, so the estimated contact time is about 20 hours. And then once we give you access to the platform, then you'll have adequate time to complete that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. When is the course going to start?
We'll be doing a few cohorts, but we should be starting within another few weeks. All our registrants will hear from us within the next week. So you'll get the instructions when I see another question around the instructions. So we'll definitely be communicating with everyone within the next few days. So as of today, starting today, we'll start coining that email to go out to everyone who would have registered so far.
Okay, and Richard, since we have you live on online, if you can just keep answering some questions for us. Does registration for the launch actually register you for the course?
No, so I think what we could maybe do as well for our support is maybe we could have the slide with the course code on screen, because I think a few people asked that for it to be reshared, but no, registering for the launch does not register for the course. But we have been very, very flexible. So there are a few people who would have had challenge, well, few, maybe like less than 10 with the platform, and we would have done that for them individually from the team from CDB, Leaf, and CDEMA. So you scan the QR code. If you're having any challenge, I'm sure when Karen speaks later, she'll also provide the contacts that you could also email us, and we are very, very responsive where you're having issues.
Do you need any prerequisites to qualify for this course?
Yes, there's one prerequisite. It's just to register. Once you're registered, you're good to go. But there's no prerequisite, and it's free. It's self-paced. I also see some questions around cost. So there's no cost. It's free and it's self-paced. You could complete it within your own time. So we'll give you a few weeks. we're discussing about 3 weeks to complete that 20-hour course. So you'll have an opportunity to complete within a particular timeline. So you could determine what time of day. You could do it in a week. You could do it in a day if you like. But you have that flexibility within that window based on your cohort.
Does this course qualify for continuing professional education?
Yes, it could. Yeah, so it does. So we've accredited it for 20 learning hours. So if you that usually equates to 20 CPD points. And I could also speak to another question in the chat about the consultants in the modules. So they were not created using AI, but they're part of the software that we're using, and the content authoring software we're using to design the online learning, which is called Articulate Rise.
Okay, and the certification, if you could just take us again through the certification and what it might qualify you to do, what else you could go on to do based on the certification.
Yes, certainly. So this isn't a formal accreditation. It's a CPD, so continuing professional development. So, for example, if your employer requires you to show your CPD, sometimes they do that with hours or points, then this would qualify for 20 points or 20 learning hours. So it's not a sort of formal university qualification, because obviously it's quite a short course, but it's a CPD, a continuing professional development qualification.
Thank you, Ella. And how many days per week will classes be held?
Right. So as I said before, it's self-paced, so it's at your own convenience. So you could determine once you get your cohort that you're assigned to, we'll give you an email with the instructions. You have 3 weeks, for example, to complete this course. So you could do it at any point in time within that 3-week period. So you'll interact with CDB or CDEMA's learning platform, and it's all up to you within that, I would think, more than adequate window to complete the course.
So just to clarify and confirm, Richard, if I want to log on at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning during my 3-week period, I can learn literally at any time and from any place I have an internet connection.
Right, definitely. So there are no limits to when and how often you could log on. It's an active platform that is available for your interaction.
And I know you have said it, but the question comes up repeatedly. What is the cost? Say it again for the people in the back as we say.
All right, no problem. So the cost is free, right? So there is no cost associated. The only prerequisite is for you to sign up using the link and or the QR code, and you can always reach out to us. As I said before, the team has been very responsive to the responsive to the comments, feedback from the team. But definitely we will be sharing with the communicating with all 4,200 people within the next week. So you'll have those instructions.
Okay, thank you very much. And one of those 4,200 people says, I have registered, but I have not been advised when I can take the course.
Right. So that's the communication I'm speaking of, that you will receive communication from us within a week. So by next Wednesday, you'll have an email telling you, giving you those instructions as to when and how, etc.
Okay, does the course have videos or is it only words?
All right, so 2 things. I'm sure Ella may want to come in here as well. So we have audio and text, and given the consideration for persons who are different impairments, different abilities, we sought to limit the video and graphics, because I'm not sure Ella, you want to maybe speak to this, but it also can create a bit of challenge for inclusion. So it is of such that everyone could participate, could interact with the text or audio. But Ella, you want to?
Yeah, just to support the sort of specification of the course wasn't for a video-based course, but it is interactive. So as mentioned, we have interactive knowledge checks and different types of interactive exercise. So it's not too heavy. It should be, the information is presented in different ways, like diagrams, infographics, and so on. So hopefully you'll find it quite easy to deal with, to absorb.
Okay, and we're getting some comments and some very positive feedback. Participants are thanking us for the course and saying that it's much needed. And another question here, on completing the course, will persons be sent information on calls for funding?
Well, there's a directory that will update continuously of donors that you could interact with. So during that, you'll have access to that resource. And then we will definitely be open to those conversations as well. But within the list of resources, there's a directory of donors that you could access just to align based on your project idea with particular donors that you could interact with to actually complete proposals. And there's another question I want to respond to as well. We're also discussing, so each registrant will be assigned to a particular cohort. And what will happen then, if you have any, we're hoping that people are okay with completing within the cohort that they're assigned. But I'm sure we could definitely have conversations around how do we treat that. But as I said before, you could, if you fail or you decide that you do not want to, you're not able to participate in cohort 1, then you could also potentially re-register, or we could definitely have a conversation, Stephanie Gale, around how do we treat with that. But we're actually trying to agree on the number of registrants per cohort that will be accommodated on CDB and CDEMA's learning platform. And then during that time, you will be able to interact with us as well. But I think the biggest conversation here, Camille, is around communication. So we remain open to having the dialogue, to providing the support, and we're trying our best to be responsive to the questions that may come in. And not just that too, but at the end of maybe the first 2 or 3 cohorts, maybe have another interaction as well with those who would have completed, because it's also about improving on what we do, and we're valuing engagement. So your experiences, your thoughts, I think is also quite critical as well, to see whether we should shorten the time in the future, Gail, for each cohort based on the completion rates, etc. But it's going to be an ongoing dialogue with everyone throughout this process.
And that's good to know, Richardo. And there's very much a spirit of capacity building and of wanting beneficiaries to get the most possible out of this training. So it's not about putting more obstacles in people's way, but about helping people to overcome and be equipped. When will registration for the course end? Is there a finite period in which this course will be?
I think one of the thoughts that we have is, once we are able to get through these 4,200, maybe 4,210 by now, Camille, registrants, the idea is that CDB and CDEMA will agree on an annual schedule to see whether we could do it twice a year or so, to ensure it's ongoing. So it's a live platform that we intend to utilize in the long haul for sure. So that's the thought. So for those who are interested or who decide at a later date they want to do it, there's the registration will still be open, and then we'll decide on how that can be done. I think my final point is, what we're also open to doing, Camille, is to have, we're organizations, so we already started having dialogue with the Caribbean Justice, for example, and the University of the West Indies about meeting with different groups within organizations. So we could also have those introductory sessions, tell you what the course is about before you're ready. So where there are those larger groups, feel free to reach out to us, and I'll be very happy to facilitate a 30-minute session online to kind of give you some more insights for those who are interested and still wants to get some more information.
Okay, big question here. Is this course applicable also for profit for-profit organizations working on cultural or educational projects. My friends, the private sector wants in. Is the training open to them?
Yes. I think the idea is that the capacity is the need for this particular capacity is critical in every single space. So we have registrants from different backgrounds in terms of private sector. We have a few people who are in the police force is across the region. We have educators. So there is no limit. There's no cost, and there's no limit. It's a public good that the partners are creating to serve our region. And what we've seen now is even going beyond the scope of the Caribbean to an international level. But it's for you, is to ensure that we could build the capacity as we seek to make development a reality from multiple sectors.
Okay, and I'm conscious of the time now, but I just want to get a few more in because these are important issues. If you fail the first time, how many times can you retake the course? We all know what it's like to be an anxious student. What kind of latitude and leeway and forbearance do we?
Yeah, I think that there's this popular nursery rhyme. If you try and don't succeed, you could try and try again.
Try again. Okay, and that's comforting to know. On completion of the course, will persons receive feedback to access support or feedback on proposals they may draft?
Well, I think that would need to be a separate conversation, but we're definitely open to having those dialogue as well in terms of CDB, CDEMA, and the broader government and the wider government of Canada mandate as well. So we'll be more than happy to provide dialogue. As I said before, our personal contacts are there, so you could always reach out to us by email. And so far, we've been very, very responsive, and our aim is to keep that up.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to draw the Q&A to a close. But as you said, the contact information is out there, and yourself and colleagues will be responsive. So you can keep your questions coming in. And we are eager to ensure that potential participants are equipped and empowered. Thank you very much for all your questions, and we hope we've done a thorough job in answering them. And we are moving rapidly to the close, and to bring our program to an end, we will hear from someone whose work sits at the very heart of what today is about. Ms. Karen Phillip, Local Engagement and Action Fund Coordinator for the Field Support Services Project in the Caribbean. Ms. Phillip, please tie it all together.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Camille. To our colleagues, distinguished guests, and all our prospective participants joining us today, what an inspiring session this has been. As we conclude this launch, I'm shocked by the collaborative commitment represented in this virtual room. We have heard from the leadership of the Caribbean Development Bank and CDEMA, and from our funders, the Government of Canada, who have reminded us of the critical importance of strengthening regional capacity. The testimonials we heard from Nadina and Cheryl serve as the most powerful reminder of why this course exists. It's not just about learning the mechanisms of a proposal, but it's about empowering the Caribbean people. It's about taking the vital transformative work that you are doing in your communities and ensuring that it has the resources and the viability it deserves to scale. To our participants, the journey you're about to embark on requires focus and dedication. But please know that you're not doing this alone. This course is the bridge to connecting your passion, your local expertise with global standards required to secure sustainable funding. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the partners of CDB and CDEMA for your vision and collaborative spirit, to the University of Wolverhampton for your expertise in shaping this curriculum, to our presenters for their keen contributions, and our team at LEAF for your hard work to bring this initiative from concept to reality. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the generous support of the Government of Canada. As we officially close this launch, I thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. For those who have registered to do the course, you will receive an email shortly about the starting date. Thank you for your time, your dedication, and your commitment to the development of our region, and I wish you the very success in your studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillip. And a final word. Do not let proposal writing be the wall between you and the change you are trying to make. You have the vision, the relationships, and the experience. Now you will have the skills to match. Register, enroll, and complete the course, and go make development happen. We want you equipped, we want you funded, we want you empowered to make a difference. Thank you all, and all the best to each and every one of you. Good day.